is Ryan Cam, and welcome to part two of last week's The 1999 Project installment. Baby Geniuses was so bad that I had to create a standalone video for that in order to just get that out of my system. And to be completely honest, time got away from me and I did not have time last week to watch all of the movies I was supposed to cover. So that is on me and I apologize for that. This video is a make good for that. It is very late, I know, and I apologize. But better late than never. Let us dive in head first, starting off with a movie that I watched immediately after Baby Geniuses and was just expecting the bare minimum. And what I got was much more than that. It's The Corruptor.
How young fat. Mark Wahlberg. This time is over. The Corruptor.
The Corruptor was directed by James Foley, the director of movies like Glengarry Glen Ross, and the latter two 50 Shades of Grey movies. Hey, we can't all be perfect. And the movie starred Chow Yun-fat and Mark Wahlberg, and it tells the story of those two guys who play cops. They're partners, basically. They patrol Chinatown in New York City, which is up to its eyeballs in corruption, and there is no daredevil to help them out, so it's pretty much up to them. However, their loyalties are not necessarily in the right spot, and so it's basically a cat and mouse game of who can snuff out the rat fastest. I watched this movie immediately after Baby Geniuses, so all I was asking for was just the bare minimum, something competent that just made me say, you know, that was at least worth the investment in this project. And like I said, maybe it was because my standards have dropped, but I really liked this movie, like more than I was expecting to. And really what it comes down to is that the movie knows what it is. It's a cop drama. It doesn't try and be anything more than, it doesn't look before it leaps, I suppose. The movie knows what it wants to go for. It leans into its genre, and it works. Chow Yun-fat was my favorite part of the movie. He is a very complex character. You can tell that he wants to do the right thing. However, without spoiling anything, he has a very corrupted sense of what that right thing truly is. And it is explored throughout the movie, and I did appreciate that. Mark Wahlberg was also surprisingly good. I was thinking to myself, was this like his breakout role? And well, like a dummy, I forgot that 2 years prior, he was in a little movie called Boogie Nights. You're a big mother effing star and all of that. So Wahlberg was more than on his way to being the Mark Wahlberg that we know and love today. I mean, he's in a movie coming out this weekend called Arthur the King. So the dude made it. Their dynamic with each other made the movie enjoyable for me because, and again, without spoiling anything, they're not exactly telling the truth to anyone, including each other. So it's just a question of who can you truly root for? And both of these characters are not exactly ones you should aspire to be. It's just a race to the bottom to say who is the least evil, I guess. But the movie does a good job of balancing the likability factor. These characters are not unlikable. They just have to adapt to their surroundings in order to survive and hopefully make a difference. The villain of the movie is the villain from the first Jason Statham Transporter movie, the dude who sells his own daughter into this Chinese slave trade. He was the first villain that I really truly hated because I understood what like it was going for, and just when he slaps his daughter in the face in that trailer, I was like, I will reach through that screen right now. But he did an admirable job in the movie as well. And Brian Cox is also in the movie, which is crazy to think that he just wrapped up doing the series Succession. So Brian Cox has been a thing for a very long time. His role is very limited, but it's Brian Cox, so of course he knocks it out of the park. My one lone gripe, and it's a small thing, is that the movie kind of goes a little too twisty for its own good. There's something that happens, and it didn't kill the movie for me. I just didn't like the decision. That's all I'm going to say. I recommend you check out the movie, and I'm just going to leave it at that. And your mileage is going to vary. But for me, it was just unnecessary window dressing. I guess that's my point. But I'm going to give this movie a great rating. A really solid story, interesting characters, great action sequences, and just exactly what the doctor ordered. There was the palate cleanse that I was asking for. But now let's cover some familiar territory here on this channel. It is The Rage, Carrie 2.
Terror.
Dude, it's her! It's her doing it!
Runs in the family. The Rage, Carrie 2.
The Rage, Carrie 2 was directed by Kat Shea, and it is the only direct sequel to Carrie, directed by Brian De Palma. If you are watching this video, I imagine you have seen that movie at least once. It tells the story of a young girl named Rachel, played by Emily Burgle. Her friend commits suicide after constant bullying, and so she becomes the target of the bullying herself. And well, this is a Carrie movie, so those bullies are going to get it. They're definitely going to get it. The first Carrie movie is one of the best Stephen King movies ever made, or one of the best movies based on a Stephen King work. That movie is so well done. And my only knock against the movie is that it's very obviously like Mr. De Palma, your Hitchcock love is showing, because he literally recycles bits from the score of Psycho in that movie. If you listen closely, there's that deep, 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 deep from the Psycho in Carrie. I'm not knocking De Palma, I'm just pointing it out. But the rest of the movie is stellar. Even a young-ass John Travolta makes the movie work somehow. I covered Carrie 2 in one of the Scary Manias. I was covering all of the sequels to movies that I had covered on the channel previously. And I didn't hate the movie. Like, I've seen some reviews. I've seen some very, not trash reviews, but reviews that trash this movie. And it's not really that deserving. The movie is not great. But it's very clear there is effort put forth in this. And there is attempts made to try and pay, not just pay homage, but try and respect what was left behind from the first Carrie. And to that, I say it was a good effort. Like, by God, they tried. Emily Burgle was the best part of the movie by a lot. You immediately feel her pain. And when she goes full Carrie, it's brutal stuff. The third act is the best part of the movie by a significant portion. Rachel is the only likable character in the movie. The rest are just cartoons. Like, even in the De Palma Carrie, there are at least some characters who are like, yeah, I don't like you, but you're at least trying to be a better person. Every other high schooler in this movie is just plain old cartoons. Like, not even Zachary Ty Bryan from Home Improvement turns in a good performance. He's a cartoon as well. Like, if you were to picture in your head like a high school jock, like the most OTT version of that, they're in this movie. In many ways, the surgery was a success, but the patient died, in that you grow to hate these characters, except for Rachel, but you are just like checking your watch like, okay, when is the meltdown gonna happen? And when the meltdown happens, it is brutal, but you're not really on the edge of maybe they've changed their ways. No, these people are pure evil and they need to go. I'm going to give this movie a forgettable rating. And like I said, by God, these people try. There is clearly effort put forth to try and make this something worthwhile. It just pales in comparison to the original Carrie. And as of this recording, I have not seen the Carrie starring Chloe Grace Moretz. However, when I do my Scary Mania series 1 year for Oops All Remakes, that movie's going to be included. But let's close out part 2 by talking about a movie that I had no knowledge of going into, and I kind of wish I had no knowledge of now. It's Forces of Nature.
Sandra Bullock, Ben Affleck.
I'll be down there as soon as I possibly can, barring any further disaster.
Forces of Nature.
Forces of Nature was directed by Bronwyn Hughes, and it starred Ben Affleck and Sandra Bullock. And this movie's basically planes, trains, and automobiles. A straight-laced guy, played by Ben Affleck, is trying to get home to marry his fiancée. However, due to many, many, many travel difficulties, he must take every other travel method possible to get there. And along the way, he has in tow what starts out as an annoying person, in this case played by Sandra Bullock. However, the two form a relationship. I consider myself a fan of Ben Affleck. From, say, 2007 when he directed Gone Baby Gone up to now, the dude has been fairly consistent and he is a great talent. But there was like a Phantom Zone where Ben Affleck was just a punchline. And I'm not even covering, at least in this project, some of his more laughable movies like Gigli and Jersey Girl. Like Ben Affleck was just getting the short end of the stick while his buddy Matt Damon was Jason frickin' Bourne. So I feel bad for the guy. Better days were ahead, but we are stuck in the quagmire, and that goes double for Forces of Nature. This is not the worst movie ever, but it's very clearly like a ripoff of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but without any of the humor or the heart. It doesn't particularly help things that Ben Affleck and Sandra Bullock don't really have good chemistry with each other. It's not the best, that's my point. And really what it boils down to is that they both kind of come across as unlikable in a sense, because in Planes, Trains, and I don't mean to go back to Planes, Trains, but the stories in these movies are very similar, so I'm going back to what I know. In Planes, Trains, Steve Martin in that movie does treat Dell very badly. However, he is coming from a very understandable place. He's trying to get home to his family for Thanksgiving. We've all been there. So, in Forces of Nature, this dude's going home to get married. Okay, that's fine. But then you got Sandra Bullock there, and the two are just like, get out of my way, stay out of my way, get out of my way, and it just gets tiresome. And you learn things about Sandra Bullock's character to where you're like, why am I supposed to be rooting for you again? Also, only in the beginning and the end of this movie looks like Steven Spielberg was testing out his method for bleaching the film reels for Minority Report, because it's like pure blue at just the beginning and the end, and the rest of the movie is normal. I don't understand this choice. Why was this choice made? Someone needs to explain this to me. I'm not a big stickler about visual looks of things unless it's like in your face, like plain annoying. But this is one of those times where it was plain annoying, and it's just the beginning and the end. It's pure blue, and I'm just like, the screen is blue. Like, someone get Fletcher Reed on the phone. The screen is blue. At the end of the day, this movie is pretty forgettable. Again, this is not the worst, but it just felt like a slog to get through. It was kind of unlikable. But what did you think of any of the movies I've covered in now part 2 of this week's 99 Project? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. And stay tuned for later on this week, where I will be covering the animated Rankin Bass adaptation of The King and I, Ravenous, starring Guy Pearce, and True Crime, written and directed and starring Clint Eastwood. But if you like the video, leave a like, subscribe. My name is Ryan Cam. I'll see you in the next one.